Welcome to the Marketing Trench. Today, we are very excited to have Kyle Seagraves of Win the House You Love, the YouTube channel, a phenom in our industry with 78,000 subscribers. We have micro celebrities, and Kyle's definitely one of them. And one of the things we really love about Kyle is that he just took to this whole YouTube video thing just 100%. He took to it right away. He's got a heart for helping people, and it really shows in his content. And so today we're going to be talking about building those relationships, building the YouTube channel, connecting with your audiences, all of that great stuff. And Scott, I want you to just maybe take a moment. You know Kyle really well. Can you just set the table here a little bit more for our listeners as to what we're doing today?
You got to one-up micro celebrity, Scott. Just as a heads up.
No, so yeah, I mean, I'm getting to know Kyle. We've recently connected and we've started talking, and what I think is so amazing is I have this certain experience with creating consumer direct content for about 12 years now. So I think we determined Kyle was in 5th grade when I started, somewhere around there. But I mean, I've gone through this journey of writing blog posts and writing blog content, and there's and what I've identified in there is what I like to talk about is bridging that trust gap between a Google search and finding the answers to the questions that consumers are looking for. And I've always done that through text or through copy, just writing blog posts around things. I pick certain niches, and I wrote a lot of articles over a long, long time. And then this little punk kid comes along and gets on YouTube and just is killing it. And what I really just fell in love with is just the sincerity and the authenticity that comes from him. I mean, he just seems like a normal guy. He doesn't have radio voice on there. He's not doing anything crazy. And when he tells his story, you'll kind of see his evolution of, his background and how he likes to present himself. But when we started talking, we were just like, man, there's so many things we have in our experiences. There's so many common threads in our experiences with Consumer Direct, but on completely different mediums. Right. Completely. So I was doing mostly, articles that people were writing, and he's doing the video. And then I've been getting into the video. And when I decided I need to start doing more video, that's when I ran into Kyle, and have kind of been, lurking in the background for a couple of years or a year or so, just kind of watching what he's doing and being super impressed with it.
Excuse me.
That's a nasty cold you got there.
Yeah, really.
But for mutual friends, we've started talking, and it's just it's been really interesting how parallel our experiences have been.
Yeah, well, wow. Thanks for the introduction. This is a strong introduction. I'll say, Ricardo, you're next. What do you got?
Man. No.
Come on, keep playing on me.
Ricardo's like, I don't know the guy.
Just make stuff up, man.
So Kyle, guy's awesome.
Is that it? That's all you had?
That's a lot for Ricardo.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on here. And it's interesting. I texted Scott a couple of days ago and was like, you need to get out of my head. I think we're very strangely similar in a lot of ways, which has been interesting as we've been kind of figuring out.
No, you should see a therapist now.
Yeah. Oh, I am already in therapy, so good luck, Scott. It sounds like you have some work cut out for you. Yeah, and so YouTube has been really interesting. And what's funny is, like, Scott, I kind of have the inverse, because I initially was thinking of getting into kind of doing the mortgage education, real estate education on the copy side. So looking at doing the blogging. And as I would look stuff up, I just recognized, like, there's already so much content out there, like yours and others as well. And what made me think, like, oh, I can't even enter that space, which is why I gravitated towards video, because I thought it was going to be a lot easier to try to get some sort of ground in this, because there were so many people like your website that already had hundreds, if not, are you up to thousands of articles now, I imagine?
Yeah, I cleaned a house a couple of years ago and took out a bunch of the old stuff, but yeah, it's over 1,000 articles in the last 10 years.
For people that don't know, Scott, you started Find My Way Home and created just an insane amount of content. When did you start Find My Way Home?
It was fourth quarter of 2007, and I wrote 2 to 3 articles a week for 10 straight years.
That's amazing.
So,
Let me repeat
I don't know if it's
that.
amazing or if it's crazy.
Let me repeat that. 2 articles a week for 10 years.
Yeah. I would say I was just too stupid to stop. I wasn't smart enough to just
comment section said.
That's awesome. So, Kyle, you didn't feel that way at all when you were going down the video rabbit hole?
I definitely did, because so kind of my thought progression was initially I was looking at the blogging side, because I used to work writing some articles for a small company. And so I was like, oh, I could do this, and then realized, oh wait, no, the space I felt was too saturated, which I've learned is not actually a true thing anymore. But then I kind of gave up that idea of actually making content. I gravitated towards YouTube mainly because I wanted to make a library of videos for my clients. So it was in no way trying to get any sort of like traction elsewhere or try to get an audience from anywhere else. It was all because like I was getting annoyed with answering the same question over and over and over again.
So this wasn't lead gen. This was, file or your loan is approved. Here's what happens next.
It was
or whatever.
And a lot of it was like one of the first videos I made was like, here's the 3 steps to buy a home. Here's how you get pre-qualified. Here is what an appraisal is. All those questions that you're like, I'm really tired of answering this over and over again. And also, like, I started as a loan officer at 22. And so like, that's like,
so like yesterday.
Yesterday. 25 now. So that's like half of the age of the average loan officer. So with that comes people don't trust you as much, understandably. Like, who's this kid that's am I really gonna show him all my finances?
Go get some experience, then come talk to me.
Yeah. And so what I realized is like, one way that I can stand out is I have to do more than what other people are doing to have any sort of leverage to be able to stand out and gain some trust. When other people can say, I've been doing this for 22 years, I can be like, well, I've been alive for 22 years, so I can't carry that around. I can't
That's
carry
not
that
a really
around.
good competitive advantage.
Yeah. Being alive is like the base standard for the person you want to work with. So
Maybe.
I found with video, it was kind of this really interesting thing where when I would do like cold outreach to somebody, or like a realtor would say, hey, here's this client, could you reach out to them? Instead of trying to set up a phone call, I would just send them a video that was specific to that area. So some of them were like personalized. Like I did in 1 year, I did like 1,000 bomb videos that were personalized, but then started wanting to scale that up a little bit more of like, I can't keep doing that many videos all the time. What can I do to add some scale to this? And so that's really what I made it for, was build trust with realtors, build trust with buyers, and help to kind of bridge that gap that, Scott talks about with trust of like, how do I communicate like I'm a person who cares and I have the information that you need when you're going through, encountering these problems and buying a home. It just so happened that other people on YouTube gravitated towards those videos as well, because I don't think a lot of that information was available in video format at the time. There's tons now, and definitely there were people before me, but I don't think as significant on the mortgage side. So then YouTube just kind of started picking up and gained a lot more traction with that as well. And then is when I realized, oh, I can actually push into this, put some more energy into this, and treat it more as a way to do content marketing than just this little library of videos for my clients.
So were those first few videos hard? Because we often talk about, or we've been telling people they should get into video, and we have this moment of overthinking what we're going to say, or is this good enough? Do I look silly? Or any number of things. So did you overthink like the technology that went into it, or did you just grab your phone and record?
Yeah, my first videos on YouTube are with my iPhone, and for some reason I decided I was just like, I was too embarrassed to do it in. At that time, I lived with 2 other guys. I was too embarrassed to like do it in there because you don't want other people to hear you recording a video because you sound dumb. You're like, hey, like nobody wants to hear that through the walls. And so I was like, I'm just gonna do this outside. So I was walking around the neighborhood with my phone in the air, and you have everyone who's just staring at you, wondering who's this like 22-year-old kid talking to his phone about mortgages, and who cares about this. So yeah, the beginning ones are not good, but I think what helped me a lot was before I did YouTube videos, I just did a ton of personalized videos. And so I mean, you could use it on any software,
Those are a
Lightroom,
lot
or
easier.
whatever. Yeah, and I learned like the power of video through that enough to be able to feel like, you know what, I'm gonna feel kind of dumb doing this, but it's going to be really beneficial because I can already see the benefit of this. And you know, if you do a live stream in the very beginning, and when I would have like one person that would join the live stream, it's a little depressing
It
and a
was
little
Scott.
embarrassing. Yeah.
Scott was the one person.
Strangely, there was one view and one dislike, and so yeah, it's nerve-wracking in the beginning, but doing that, I think doing the personalized video as a bridge to get into doing kind of more publicized video is a fantastic way to get into it instead of just immediately jumping into doing video that's public for everyone to watch.
Really like that. I guess I kind of want to touch on this because you said something that was interesting, and I guess I'll squeeze it in here. You said that when you were looking at copying, you thought that it was oversaturated, and then you realized that wasn't necessarily true. Yeah. I have a feeling that I know what you're talking about, and I have a feeling that a lot of people that are watching this are thinking the same thing. Well, I can never compete with a Kyle. I can never compete with all of these guys that are out there. You've got a friend out in Arizona, who's a realtor, right? Has over 100,000. You know, so if you're a real estate agent, we have our audience is real estate agents and loan officers. You look at it and you're like, oh, wait, I can't do anything because I can't publish because there's too much information out there. Where I thought you were going, or what my experience has been, is I always tell people when you put content online, there is no competition because there's only one you. So the way that you deliver the content, the way that you phrase it, the way that you structure your blog posts, the way that you structure your videos, you are actually attracting people who already resonate with who you are, your sincerity, your personality. And so the people that come to you through that, they're not looking to do business with anybody. They're finding you and they're saying, wow, I can really relate to this person. And so it really becomes a hyper niche, highly broadcast, hyper niche kind of a situation. Is that kind of what you were talking about when you were talking about the saturation?
So anything involving content always has this weird level of scarcity involved with it, where we assume that if there's other people, then there's not going to be enough for me. And so I think we first have to remember, like, how do we ourselves like consume content? So for instance, when I'm interested in something, I'm not just reading like one article, I'm reading like 5 articles, watching 9 videos, like listening to podcasts about it. I'm looking at information from a ton of different sources. Nobody is just going, I watch one video, I have the answer, and I'm done. Anybody interested in a topic is watching tons of things. So that in of itself, I think, can combat the scarcity. But the other thing is there's this weird thing that happens where the more people that are in a specific space, the easier it is for you to grow with that audience because the audience has already been created. And this is especially true on something like YouTube, where it's kind of has a social element to it. So a good example of this is because I think a lot of people would have that fear of like, okay, there are people in the space who have tens of thousands of subscribers. There's no space for me to now make real estate content or whatever content they're creating, which just isn't true. You get to like tag on to another audience. Like, you know, I don't know if you ever did this. I did this before. I'd made it, you know, we make those dumb decisions where like, I have some rollerblades and then, you know, maybe my friend's going to drive by on a car and I'll grab onto it and we'll like go a little bit faster. Right. Not a suggestion, but like, maybe a bad decision, a fun one. But I think it's the same thing where like someone else kind of created the momentum. They have their channel or their blog or whatever's moving forward. And you actually kind of get to like grab onto it a little bit and gain some momentum. You might not be moving as fast as they are, but you got to take advantage of what they created, the audience that was there. So it's the same thing with YouTube, for instance. So like YouTube real estate, when I first started making videos, Javier Vidania, who's a realtor in Phoenix, I think he had somewhere around 30,000 subscribers. And at that point I was like, he already has 30,000. There's no way I can make any dent in this. Why would I even start?
Mm.
But now he's up to 100 and I think 10,000. But I talked with him and he was like, kind of in the beginning when he was making videos, there was not a lot of good real estate information on YouTube. And so he was kind of one of the people who carved the way. He kind of carved the space. But through that, he was creating the audience, because that audience wasn't fully there on YouTube. Whereas now I kind of got to come in and kind of ride on his coattails a little bit of he kind of created this audience. And so all these videos that he has that have tens of thousands of views, well, when I make a video, all of a sudden, if YouTube recommends it, I have the sight of all of those people as well. And so I think it's the same thing for new people entering the spaces. You get to see what's working, what hasn't worked. And because of the way that like suggestions work in YouTube, is that audience is already there looking for more information. And so you get to come on the scene with information that's helpful. And it's just a lot easier to grow, I think, the more people that are in that space.
So it's a combination of being able to learn from your peers that are also doing it. And so you kind of build a little bit of that creators community, but it's also the YouTube algorithm, right? Because what YouTube's entire goal in life is to keep the eyeballs on YouTube as long as possible. So if they see somebody that's watching his channel, they're like, well, let's serve them up some of Kyle's videos and see if we can get them to spend another hour watching videos on the platform. Right.
Yeah. It's almost like free advertising on someone else's video. If you make a video good enough, YouTube is going to advertise it next to a well-performing video. And
is
so
it like related videos on the side? Is that what that is? That's not the ads necessarily. That's just, you may also be interested in this, right?
Yeah.
So,
YouTube now calls it up next, but they technically call it suggested videos.
Okay.
So you mentioned at first you were creating a lot of personalized videos for like existing clients.
Yeah.
Were you creating these sort of like when you thought it's time to scale this? Were you, first of all, were you uploading those personalized ones to YouTube?
No, no, I was just keeping them in like, at the time I was using BombBomb.
Okay. But then you wanted to scale them. Were you just creating like evergreen stuff? So like how to use gift money as a form of down payment or something?
Right. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what do you make videos on, which is the big question that if someone knew the right answer all the time, they would have millions and millions of subscribers. But yeah, I was trying to figure out like what is kind of the more evergreen stuff. And what I was using as a source for ideas was, what are my
Scott's
clients
website?
Asking me? Yes. Yeah, if you compare his website to my videos on posting schedules.
I do have a couple of topics that I think you could kill on. So we can have that conversation later.
I'm going to get a cease and desist from Scott a year later. No, it was all like, what are my clients asking me? Because I figured if they're asking me, there's probably a lot of other people who are asking the same question.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
For every, I forget, maybe we said it on the podcast before, for every one person that asks us that question, there's at least 10 who have it but haven't asked.
Yes.
Or who have it but haven't raised their hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's definitely true. I don't know what the number, that ratio is, but not everybody, most people don't comment. The overwhelming majority of people will not comment or engage, or even let you know that they're there. So for every person that does, there's a huge audience out there that's just listening.
Yeah. So I'm a bad viewer because I do that with a lot of videos. I don't comment. I'm sitting there thinking like, should I like ethically
guilty?
Comment?
Guilty. So how frequently were you publishing content when you started then?
Yeah, that first year that I was making videos, that was where I was kind of more in the mindset of like, this is a library for my clients. So it was really sporadic. Within that first year, I think I maybe made somewhere around 60 videos. So really not that much. I know that
almost one a week, with the exception of a few weeks where you doubled up.
Yeah, I think that might sound like a lot to people who aren't used to making video. But at that point, when you're making multiple videos a day that were personalized, doing one a week that's more long form is not that big of a deal. Yeah, it's so much easier. And so that was the first week or the first year. Then when I got into year 2, I think I was somewhere around 100-ish subscribers. So it took me like a year to get 100 because I wasn't, the topics were not, nothing was optimized for a viewer, helping one viewer in a spot. They were all these kind of like, I was just trying to figure out what topics do I make and what's the whole point of YouTube and figuring this whole thing out. And then I started watching videos of a guy named Miles Beckler. And so he does a lot of like digital marketing type stuff. And he did this thing where he called a 90-day challenge, which was basically, he was like, I'm going to record a video every day for 90 days. And I knew that was too much for me, but I did one video every weekday. And there were, periods where I didn't hit that. And I don't think I did a full 90, but I know there was a couple months where I was just every weekday, I was just went in, recorded a video. And so that's what I think kind of helped accelerate things. And not necessarily that having more videos on YouTube, I think ranks you higher, but I think what it did is it created the practice. Just like if you do any other thing that you're interested in, it takes practice to learn how to do anything. It's going to take practice to learn how to be on video, how to communicate well. And that's something I'm still learning every single video. Is like, how do I want to present information? How do I figure out the way to communicate clearly and quickly without being inauthentic to who I am as well. Yeah. And so I think that's what really helped in that second year period of time, was just coming up, showing up, practicing being on video and recording video. That way each one can get a little bit better.
You said something really important also that I want to circle back to. You said back then when I started, I wasn't creating content for one viewer. Unpack that a little bit and what that
if I would have realized that in the beginning, I think I would be much further ahead than where I am now. Because I just realized that within the past probably 8 months, which is where you kind of see that hockey stick growth, like that inflection point for me, going from maybe 10,000 to now like 78,000 in just over, I think, 14 months, was really realizing like, oh, I'm making videos, I need to make them for one person. And this, the very specific application for this in real estate was I was making videos on like budgeting, credit, how to buy a home, how to sell a home, how to refinance a home, kind of all over the place. And I was also making videos that nobody was ever going to click on. Like kind of those videos that aren't around like topics, they're not around one idea. And so what I realized was I have to make a video where like I want someone to watch a video, click on my channel, and then be like, oh my gosh, every one of these videos was made just for me. These all resonate with my unique situation.
Wait, sorry, I want to pause you because I think I misunderstood what you were saying. So you're not saying make every video for like have a person in mind and make a video for that person. You're saying you're dedicating like most of your videos in your channel to one person you're having a conversation with in your mind.
I think, yes. I think your channel, for people to subscribe to it, it needs to resonate with one person for me to take the action of subscribing. Otherwise, what happens, and this is kind of a little bit of a trap that I realized I fell into and I'm trying to correct, is like I had videos, for instance, on like how to refinance, like how to choose a right refinance, how to like pay off your mortgage quicker. And some of those videos had like 50, 60,000 views. I unpublished them
that would
last month.
That would tell me, okay, if my video has 50,000 views, I'm going to keep creating this type of content. And you're saying the opposite?
That had 50,000 views, but I had other ones that were sitting around 500,000. So I gravitate towards those.
It's a matter of
okay.
Well, and see what was happening is
continue.
So if we talk about the refinance video, like, okay, somebody clicked it and maybe they subscribed from the refinance video because YouTube will show you those analytics. However, the person who's watching the refinance video, they're not going to watch my new video about qualifying for a mortgage. And so now what I end up having is you almost have these kind of like a little bit of like inactive subscribers, which isn't terrible. But what ends up happening is if YouTube sees that I put out a new video and a lot of subscribers aren't watching it, YouTube will not show it to the rest of their audience. So YouTube's gauge is always, they're going to show it to your audience first. If your audience likes it, they'll go introduce it to new audiences. If your audience doesn't like it, they're going to protect their new audience from you. They're not going to show it. And they're like, if he can't even make his own audience happy, why would we introduce him to a new audience as well?
When you were coming up with this one person you wanted to talk to, you gave us one way you sort of had an indicator for who that person is, what their profile is.
Well, how detailed did you get too?
Yeah. Like I would love to. Can you flesh out this process of identifying your one person?
Yeah, I really do think it comes from repetition. I think it would be a mistake to, before you start a channel, say narrow it all down and then make everything that way. You kind of want to have this organic flow of figuring out who are these people, like, because it's this thing of like, it's both I'm attracting people to the videos that I make, but then YouTube is also suggesting things, and I might see things differently based on the audience that comes. And so I think in the beginning it was helpful to do some of like, hey, stuff on selling, stuff on buying, stuff on, all over the place. And then as I started recognizing what videos are doing well, what comments are coming in, what like emails am I getting from people, starting to realize, oh, okay, the person that I'm really making videos for is, and there's going to be like some variances in here, but for me, the person that I make videos for is a person who's renting. They really want to buy, but they're trying to overcome some hurdle in between renting and buying their first home. And for a lot of people, this is different. And so the way that I try to bridge that gap is through loan programs. So my ideal person is they're renting. There's a gap in knowledge between I want to buy, but I don't know what's the right loan program to use. How do I use financing to actually get that home? And then now what I do is every video is now tailored for that person. They're renting right now, they're looking to buy a home, and they need to figure out more about how to get financing for that home in the right way. Along the way, though, if I saw that like the seller's content or refinancing content had more of an impact, then I probably would have gravitated towards that. But I think the mistake a lot of people do is they're like, okay, I'm a loan originator, so I can do all these things. Mm-hmm. But there's too many audiences, there's too many people that you can serve in there that your message gets washed out a little bit, right? Because like we're here talking about real estate marketing, but if we started venturing into like some other adjacent thing, we would probably lose some interest in the people that we're looking to talk to about real estate marketing.
Well, and to your point, it sounds like what YouTube is looking for, right? With the whole, you created content. Did your audience care about it? If your audience doesn't care about it, why would the rest of the world care about it? I mean, the answer actually could be that your audience doesn't care about it, but the rest of the world really does, such as, how do I qualify for a mortgage or something like that, right? Like maybe your specific demographic doesn't care about that, but a whole lot of people would. But I think it's interesting that it would be like right now in the course of our having a conversation about YouTube, I were to suddenly bring up Froyo and be like, hey, let's really talk about Froyo flavors. And everyone's like, what do we do? We don't talk about frozen yogurt on the marketing trend, right?
Well, mainly because it's gross, but yeah.
Oh, here's the remove button. And we lost. No, but I mean, you see that, but that's kind of what people do, right? Is they just start creating these videos because they want to create content, and they want to populate their YouTube channel, or because they think, well, I'm within the context of my industry, right? So this is okay, right? But it's really interesting to hear that you've not only chosen who you're talking to, but you've also said, I'm not talking to all of these groups. Mm-hmm. Is that a scary choice for you to make?
Yeah, it is super scary. Again, because like I unpublished a video, a couple of videos that probably in total have some around 200,000 views on them. But I realize I don't want to keep attracting those people. If I do in the future, then I'll create a separate channel. I think there's a mistake where people make, like, YouTube is not social media in the sense that like I'm not coming here as Kyle Seagraves. It's called a YouTube channel because it's a channel of ideas in that as well. And a good like high level example of this is Mr. Beast, who's like, I'm pretty sure he's the most subscribed to person on YouTube. Yeah. He has multiple channels. It's not just Mr. Beast and he has gaming and his giveaway stuff and all of his other content, because not everyone's interested in that. Some people are just interested in the main thing that he does. Some people are just interested in the gaming. And so he even recognizes that and separates those into channels. So it's not just him as an individual, come watch everything that I do. That's putting like self-importance on what I'm creating, instead of recognizing like I'm trying to gather an audience around this specific idea. And the only way that I can serve this audience really well is if I really tune into who they are, what are the unique problems that they're facing, and how can I specifically help them overcome those problems. Then I become the guide in that channel, instead of being, I'm the real estate god who has the answers to all your problems and come to me because I have all the information. That doesn't really work super well. Maybe in some instances, but I feel like in the knowledge space, the personality side doesn't work as well. Like there are, of course, like, vloggers who are more personalities, but people come to their personality for entertainment, not necessarily for the knowledge that they have around one specific idea.
And it's fascinating that you say that, because again, every time I talk to you, I can completely relate this to my own experience with the website. We get, close to 25,000 unique visitors a month to our website, but it's really to about 4 different articles.
Yeah.
And that makes up probably 90% of the traffic. There are hundreds of articles that get 2 or 3 views a month, but there are like 4 or 5 articles that get thousands of views a month. And I kind of call those our content channels or our funnels. And so we build off of those, but a lot of that came from writing about specific things and saying, and listening to the feedback and saying, wow, there's a vacuum of out there for answers to these questions. And when you finally put that content out there and you start seeing people flock to it, and then you start building on it, and you develop that specific conversation. The blog gets a little bit easier because of the way that it's served up in Google searches, I would imagine. But, that's really interesting. You've got me thinking now about, because what we're attempting to do right now sounds like it's completely the opposite of what you're doing. Is we're trying to build a collaborative YouTube channel with a bunch of loan officers that we know from around the country. And they're mostly, right now, we're mostly telling success stories of people that we've helped. And so there's going to be a wide range of topics, but we're also funneling them, and we're using playlists to do it, but we're still funneling them into those content, those topics and those conversations that we're getting a lot of traffic for on the website. So we're kind of trying to see if we can move that over. So I'm really curious to see if we will be able to pull that off. But as you're talking, I'm like, man, I could create an entire channel on some of those topics, and they would be.
The nice thing is it's super easy to just have your like separate, if this is a separate refinance channel, this is a separate, each one can have its own channel.
And you can connect them all to each other, right? So you can have other channels on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can have like, I forget what it's called. I think it's related channels along the side, somewhere along the side.
Okay. No, I saw when I was formatting the dashboard, it was a place to put other channels, and you could just connect to other channels that were on YouTube, and it would be like suggested.
Yeah. It's this really fine line too of like figuring out how do you make stuff that because obviously I don't want to make stuff that's like too so specific that it applies to a very small audience. And it really is this fine line, because you can still like, I still have videos on like FHA, USDA, VA. Those are very different types of buyers in different situations, but they all have this kind of common thread of the space that they're in. It's kind of like this, what does their timeline look like in the unique space that they're in? But they might have different interests inside of those. So like, I still do have some of those playlists that narrow down different topics within the videos that I have, but they all try to have this unifying thing where everyone can be like, oh, these all relate to my experience in some way, even though the topics might be a little bit different. So it is hard to figure out, like, and I'm still trying to navigate that. I figure out how do I make this not too specific, but also like specific enough that a lot of people gravitate towards wanting to watch multiple videos. YouTube has come out recently and said one of their top metrics of making videos succeed is the average videos per viewer. I can't remember if it's per viewer or per session. I don't remember exactly how they word it. It's basically, if I watch one video, do I also watch another video and then another and then another? Or do I just watch one video from the channel and never come back to it? And that's one of YouTube's biggest indicators right now, if they're going to recommend your video, is do they watch one and then another one and then another one? And now they're on this kind of binge cycle with your content. Then YouTube's like, okay, we want to keep pushing this out, because to YouTube, they can string content along in that way. They get more ad revenue. Right. And that's kind of what drives, all of YouTube is what can they do to get more ad revenue? They're going to push that kind of viewership.
Another perspective on this conversation is you will attract the type of customer that you create content for. Yeah. So if you're all over the place and you're talking about investing and you're not going to specialize in all of these things, and it's going to probably drive you crazy if you're fielding random questions on all of these different topics. Then you're not really specializing in something or in one thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've kind of, like if you say, a good topic would be how to, let's just say buy a new home after a divorce, right? That's actually a really, really complicated topic, and it could be in a channel all of itself. But if you threw up a channel, if you just threw that up there, now you just kind of sent yourself down a rabbit hole. If it starts picking up traffic, now you've got to really go figure out all of the guidelines, gather all of the information, because people are going to start asking you questions. And this is something that I wanted to ask you also, because this is what I found about myself. I found that creating content made me a better loan officer. It made me better at what I did because I was so conscientious about the content that I was putting out there. It's going on your permanent record, essentially, right? Like on the internet. So it made me really conscious of the information that I'm giving. It has to be correct.
It
like
made you level up your game.
Well, to level up our game, like our conversation about the FHA MIP, it's like that, those things, like you really, when you think of a topic and you're like, I'm going to discuss this, you really research it deep. And so I think that a byproduct for professionals sharing their expertise online is it makes you so much better at your job, because there's that pressure to make sure you're putting out accurate information.
Yeah, there is so many details of guidelines that I know and have served me well when I was originating, because like you mentioned, like you have to, if you're going to make videos on it, you're learning through that process. And like my manager, who I'm pretty sure she had been an originator for like 15 to 20 years. And like she would frequently ask me for advice on guidelines or if something was going to work, just because like I would be there researching guidelines all the time to make videos on. And so, you really do, even if that was the only benefit you got, like that in of itself is worth it, to be able to have, to be able to learn so much more than other people, because you can save deals that way. You can earn more clients and trust that way. And that was also really helpful for me when I would talk with clients, because they would talk to other loan officers who had no clue what was going on, or some who just like didn't know the guidelines well enough to be able to communicate them clearly. And so when a client calls me and I can actually articulate, hey, this won't work with this program, but if we do this, and then we kind of do this next step as well, we can be able to secure this mortgage for you and get you into a home. Whereas somebody on a call center or wherever, they would kind of say like, no, we can't do that. And that's it. And I'm sitting there thinking like, we totally can do that. It's going to, take a little extra steps, a little extra work, but we absolutely can do that. We don't have to turn you down just because someone wasn't willing to take the time to go learn or to research a new challenge that came their way.
It's funny that you say that, because I often say that we help the people that call center lenders turn down. And that's like a kind of a dangerous ground. You don't want to advertise we say yes when they say no kind of thing. But really you're gambling on the inexperience and the ignorance of some of these big box lenders that don't hire experienced loan officers, and they're not guideline geeks. And they will never say we can't do it. They'll say, no, you can't do it. They won't say somebody else can. Right. So call center lenders, and just these people work in refi shops, and they're just churning and they're in it for the money kind of thing. Their knowledge is just so focused on what's going to get me a paycheck. They're not really reading the guidelines. But there are so many people. I think almost all of my traffic comes from people that were told no from another lender. And they don't give up, and so they keep typing and they keep doing Google searches, and an overwhelming number of those people. So we use Verse to follow up on all of our leads. All the inquiries that come in, it's a 24/7 call center. And it's great because it tells us how many inquiries, how many they contacted, and then how many of those people were qualified. And qualified means they get them on the phone. They're a real human being. They really want to talk to a person. So that's qualified. And our numbers, let me see. So just a little snapshot. We had out of, I think it was last week or something, we had 147 inquiries came in, 107 responded, and 51 of them were qualified. So that's like over 30, close to 40%. And we see between 30 and 40, high 40% of people, and all of these people have been told no. And those people can get into homes, and they just don't know that. So yeah. So again, I guess just you're really drilling down and being being an expert at that particular conversation or that avatar that you're targeting, which for you is first time buyers, right? Do you have any kind of demographic consideration or like, are you talking to millennials? Are you talking to people around your age? What have you found? Because I mean, you probably have age demographics on YouTube, right?
Yeah, YouTube tells you demographics, but I feel like it's not very helpful because it skews towards the people who use YouTube, right?
Well, that's true. That's
so
true.
it becomes kind of strange where it's like, I could look at it and be like, oh, wow, it's really high in these demographics. But then if I compare that to just the average demographics on YouTube, who is using YouTube primarily, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is just in line.
That's just the audience.
The average user. So I've been trying to skew more towards, would this technically be, what's a psychographic? Is a psychographic more of like kind of where the more like where are they at in their timeline, where are they at and kind of the emotions that they're facing and the challenges they have? Is that more psychographics?
I don't
whatever
know,
that is.
but well, what that is that's really important is it's really consumer intent, and that's the people that are problem aware, and sometimes they're even solution aware, and they're looking for a specific solution. So you've got people that know that they have a problem and they're looking for the answer to the problem, and then you have people that are looking for an answer because they've already discovered the answer. Now they're just looking for the person that can help them with that seems like they understand what that answer is.
Yeah, I think that's where I've really been focusing is on the intent because there, like, even from an age perspective, there's a huge age range. Like, I get emails from people who are like, I'm 85 and on Social Security, can I buy a home? And then also people who are like I've had people who they say they're 14 comment and be like, I don't know why I'm watching these videos, but I want to buy a house one day. I'm like, all right, you should be doing something else. But
Getting that TikTok audience there.
Yeah, I'm like, are you allowed to be on? I'm pretty sure Mark, this is not for kids. But where's your mom? Anyway, like, there's also people in their 20s. So it's this whole range of like, I'm not even trying to narrow down to an age range or anything else with that. It's more of just like, what is the intent? The one thing I have been interested in exploring as far as like some of the demographics is the like geographical locations. Because, for instance, like 70% of my audience, it's not a full 80-20, it's like 70% of my audience comes from like 13 states. And so again, part of that is some of how US demographics skew as well towards specific states. But for instance, like California watches my videos the most. California, Florida, Texas. Yeah. And so it's can I make videos on, California programs would serve a large portion of this audience. I haven't gone into that yet, but that's kind of a next step that I do want to explore.
Yeah. So California, because our brokerage is in California. California has 40% of all of the mortgages nationwide. So you get a ton of traffic, but exactly the same. Florida, Texas, California are the highest traffic. I also wanted to I also want to kind of throw in here, and I wanted to mention, because we were talking about customer intent, And this is what the beauty and the brilliance of what you're doing is. When you create content and you attract customers, they're already problem or solution aware. When you're running advertisements on social media, they are problem and solution unaware. It's interruption marketing. It's TV commercials while they're watching their favorite show, and then a Froyo commercial pops up and they're trying to convince you that it's not garbage. And we can say that because Dustin's not here. And
he's going to come back in here and yell at you.
He is. Well, oh yeah, great. He is going to just take me off air. But that's a huge difference. The difference between interruption marketing and attraction marketing. So you're just out there. You're a lighthouse, and people are finding you and they're attracted to you. Whereas when you're doing any sort of social media marketing, those people don't even know that they need your product. You're just gambling on the fact that you can target what their general interests are, but you can't identify intent with social media marketing. You can't. You know, you can identify interests and demographics and geographic, but you can't identify intent. But you absolutely nailed it. When you create content that's intent-oriented content, then the people that come to you, you're already going to know where they're at, what their headspace is, how far they've come on the journey, and what's in front of them.
Yeah. That's the weird thing about YouTube is like, and because I've had a lot of people who have like asked me about like if I'm going to do like TikTok or be more present on Instagram. I feel like I'm kind of off. Dustin heard we were talking about. Here we go.
As soon as I heard the topic, I'm like, oh, this got interesting again. I apologize. I'm battling this whole thing, so I apologize.
You're good, no worries. Yeah, like what's cool about YouTube, like you mentioned, Scott, is like the attraction thing is, some of the top videos that I have, like the number one video I have is like 30 minutes long, and it's like super detailed. And I would just so much rather work with those people and help those people who are like, I'm going to go watch a 30-minute video on FHA guidelines because I really want to take ownership of this process, rather than trying to get the attention. Super
sexy topic, right?
Yeah,
there.
I know, it's scandalous. Rather than trying to get the attention of somebody over like 60 seconds or over like I think I think you're going to get less people in some of those longer form or those more intent based types of content, but the people that you work with are going to just, I think, be so much more. I know there's so much more in line with the people that I want to work with. I don't want to have to convince somebody that I'm going to be beneficial in helping them through the process. Like I want someone to already understand and like be on board, and then we can work on actually the solution instead of convincing somebody or helping them understand how I can help them with the solution, which is, when you do some of the shorter form content or some of the social media content, I think there is a lot of like work on, you're making the content, but then also you have to kind of bridge the gap between the content and whatever is, whatever product or service is happening afterwards. There's a bit of a sales process that comes in there, where the YouTube, like a lot of these long form YouTube videos in of themselves are kind of like the sales process as well. Like people already have built up that trust enough where they're willing to allow you to help them with the solution for whatever's next.
And also, I'm not saying that that kind of interruption marketing is bad. I think it's an and, it's not an or, because we use interruption marketing, we use social media marketing, but we drive it to long form content. So we find the cold broad audience, and we say, hey, if you're interested in this, here's some long form content that really drills down and goes deep on that.
So are you retargeting? So if you send somebody to like longer form, are you then retargeting that audience?
We'll do some of that, but what we're doing is we have some very unique niches, content niches. The biggest one is qualifying for a mortgage with student loans. So we can target people with student loans in a certain demographic and just say, hey, are you trying to buy a home? Were you turned down for a home loan because you have student loans? And so we can do a cold targeting to people who have student loans in a certain age demographic. Well, we can't use age demographics anymore, right, on Facebook, but on YouTube and Facebook. So we can try to capture. And again, when you're doing super niche marketing like that, you're not spending a ton of money. It's not a broad audience, right? You're maybe showing it to a lot of people, but people aren't clicking on it. So, we're presenting the problem and with interruption marketing, and then we're solving the problem with high intent, long form, highly educational, informative, trust building content.
Yeah, it's much better than the realtor that's like, all right, call me. But
Yeah.
like you
Right.
say, call me.
Or
Call
you
me.
or you click on the link and it just goes to the homepage of their generic website.
Yeah.
No specific answer to their question. The customer intent thing, the consumer intent piece that you hit on, I really think that's the secret sauce that a lot of people miss. They don't think about that particular piece, but that's more important. That's more important than almost anything else, I think, because you're talking to that specific person, and you can relate to them because you know where they are in the process.
Even Google changed their algorithm. When was that? Was that 2012? Which is funny because there's a lot of marketing stuff that's still around like keywords. Like people still talking about like keyword strategies, and you're like, I don't. It's not about Google doesn't care about keywords. Like it is all about the intent. Or like Google themselves has come out with help articles talking about like you don't have to make an article about like my appraisal came in low, and then also low appraisal. Like it's the same intent, and Google views it the same. Like using all of its like latent semantic indexing and all of its relative keywords, like Google understands what the actual intent of the person is. And so it's just funny when people want to drill down into these like very niche things where it's like, it is all about understanding who is the person that's coming to this specific article or this specific video or the specific post. And how can we help them overcome that problem and not just try to like game the system to get on the favor of whatever algorithm god, so we can be rank a little bit higher.
Well, and that algorithm is going to change over time. So if you invest all that time and energy in trying to play that algorithm game, I've been doing this long enough that, even Ricardo and I, started over 10 years ago, there were people out there that were like, learn this algorithm, game the system this way, do these keywords. Way back in the day, you used to have a white page with white text, and it was all of your keywords, thousands of your keywords, because then that website would come up.
You just gave away my YouTube secret. How could you, Scott?
I wonder what all those pure white videos were that you put out there. But no, but that stuff sort of evolves over time, and really, I think that's probably the most important thing that it's one of the more important things that we talked about today is finding that one specific person where they're at. Because again, if you know where they're at, you know how they got there. So that's the story that attracts them to you, because you know what their thought process is. We've been renting for a long time. We're getting ready to have our first kid. We're tired of our rent going up. We'd really like to send them to a nice school. And now you're starting to have that conversation. And when you lay that out, when somebody finds that, they're like, this person gets me. And then you help them moving forward. And the other thing that I've found, and I don't know if you've probably been doing this long enough, those clients that you close from your content, you're getting more referrals, you're getting more repeat and referral business from them, because the way that you earn trust with them, you weren't the low price leader. They didn't come to you for the interest rate or whatever. They came to you because you gave them the single most valuable thing you could have, is you empowered them to make informed and educated decisions. And it's the same thing as finding a doctor that just resonates with how you think you should take care of yourself, or the psychiatrist that is like, okay, they're not just psychobabble, they actually are listening to me and they're getting to me.
It's the psychiatrist that gives me those Xanax is the one that I go with. No, I'm totally with you.
So it's good.
Well, hey, Kyle, it's been a really good conversation. I apologize again for having to bob in and out because of the cold thing, but I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Where can people find you? You have your YouTube page. It's Win This House. Kyle Seagraves is how I was able to find it, just to search there. But are you hanging out anywhere else?
So YouTube is probably the best. Win the House You Love. I do have an Instagram that's just under my name, Kyle Seagraves. I don't really post that much on it, and Yeah, we'll see if I delete it or not, because it's garbage. Other than that, whenthehouseyoulove.com. I do have like a contact section if someone wants to email and ask like a quick question. I'm open to helping in any way I can.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, any final words of advice for someone who's listening and thinking, you know what, this Kyle guy, he's doing some cool stuff, and I would like to talk to my audience on YouTube. Any words of advice for helping them get started?
I think the only advice is you just got to start. Like, you just got to accept that it's going to suck, and and no one's gonna. No, but the encouraging thing is no one's gonna watch the first video or the first 10 probably. Maybe your mom, maybe me. Send me the link and I'll watch it. But you just got to get started. There's no motivational trick to just showing up, doing the work. Try to be helpful, and you're gonna find that a lot of things are gonna come your way if that's your main focus.
That's awesome. Well, really appreciate you coming on. If anyone's listening to this and you think, okay, you know what, I want to start, I want to make videos, and what kind of equipment should I buy? We've got a marketing trench episode about that. If you're trying to figure out who your demographic is and who the people are that you're talking to, we've got a marketing trench episode about that. So if you want to go listen to previous episodes of the Marketing Trench, you can find us on YouTube or marketingtrench.fm. All of our past episodes are hanging out there. Of course, we're also on your favorite podcast player. So subscribe to us there. If you're watching this video, please send us, please put up a like. That helps us get our video out in front of more people. We really appreciate it. And if you want to check in with what Scott's doing, you can find him over at findmywayhome.com. That's Scott's project there. And nobody wants to talk to Ricardo except his mom. If you did, Ricardo's hanging out at Follow Up Boss. I'm hanging out at Lighthouse Escrow. If you live in Southern California and want to get a sense of what the closing costs would be, your escrow fees and everything, and how much money you could take away if you sold your home today, go to lighthouseescrow.com, scroll down a little bit, and you're going to see our free closing cost calculator, give you a really quick estimate. All right, guys, it's been fun. Until next time, this has been the Marketing Trench.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.